Let's start with a fact you might have known for a long time. It's unclear when exactly, but the phrase "made in China" has gradually become a familiar part of our lives. From phone cases, pencils, to even furniture, almost everything seems to originate from China. However, something interesting is happening now that goes against this trend. More and more multinational companies are becoming hesitant about doing business and setting up production lines in China, the world's largest factory. This raises a compelling question. Is the golden era of China as the world's factory shaking and gradually fading away? And here's Mason. Wherever Mason is, economic and social issues are analyzed with ease. Before diving into the main content, please note that this video has been compiled by me and my team from a variety of sources. So, if there's anything you'd like to add, feel free to leave a comment below. According to a recent survey, up to 95% of major companies express concerns about the risks of doing business in China. Not only that, 40% of American businesses and 23% of EU businesses are even considering relocating their production lines out of the country. It seems that China's position as the world's factory has begun to falter, forcing the Chinese giant to explore alternative strategies for its nation. However, before delving into the reasons behind this issue, let's first analyze the factors that have made China dominate the manufacturing map for over 4 decades. China's rise to become the world's #1 manufacturing powerhouse is no coincidence. The nation's secret lies in 3 main factors: abundant labor, low costs, and a comprehensive industrial ecosystem. First, China possesses an inexhaustible labor force at extremely competitive rates. Before April 2023, as the world's most populous nation, China always had a ready supply of young workers, numbering in the millions. Many of these workers came from rural areas, where living standards were still limited, and they were willing to accept lower wages compared to Western standards to earn a living and support their families. Next, China has built an incredibly methodical and efficient enterprise ecosystem. Imagine being a business that decides to set up in Shenzhen, a city where everything from component manufacturing, assembly, to delivery is integrated seamlessly like a well-oiled machine. It's no exaggeration to say that you only need to bring a business idea to Shenzhen, and when you leave, you'll have a fully finished product in hand. Not only that, labor laws in China are much more relaxed compared to those in the West. While the EU enforces strict regulations to protect workers' rights, China has fewer restrictions. Consequently, the relatively loose legal framework that China once implemented allowed businesses to save significantly on labor costs. And let's not forget China's highly strategic move of joining the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2001. This step opened the door for Chinese goods to be exported worldwide with highly preferential tariffs. There's a humorous anecdote often shared. If you drop an iPhone on the floor, there's a chance it'll light up with the text, "Assembled in China." This speaks volumes about how China became the production hub not only for low-cost goods, but also for high-end technology products. However, times change. The factors that once propelled China's success are now gradually becoming burdensome for the nation. The era when China had an abundance of cheap labor is now fading. As the economy grows and living standards improve, Chinese workers no longer want to work for the low wages and minimal labor benefits of the past. To provide a clearer comparison, unlike in earlier times, by 2023, the average wage of a factory worker in China had risen to 3 to 4 times higher than that in neighboring countries like Vietnam or Bangladesh. China is also facing a larger issue, an aging population. According to statistics, the birth rate in China has sharply declined in recent years. By 2035, It is projected that over 400 million people in China will be outside the working age group, further shrinking the nation's labor force. But that's not all. Another factor that cannot be overlooked when discussing China's challenges is the increasingly tense relationship between China and major economies, especially the United States. Beginning with President Trump's first term, the U.S. has continuously imposed tariffs and introduced restrictive measures to reduce reliance on China. These policies were tightened further under President Biden, with a strong focus on technology and semiconductor manufacturing. As if that weren't complicated enough, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019 dealt a severe blow to the country. The zero COVID policy, which lasted until early 2023, forced many factories and ports in China to shut down, disrupting global supply chains. Companies from the US, Europe, and Asia suddenly realized the need to diversify their supply chains to avoid over-reliance on China. As a result, multinational corporations began shifting to other markets that are cheaper and more sustainable than China. Considering all these factors, the China Plus One strategy has emerged globally. Many companies have started moving their operations to countries like Vietnam, Thailand, India, or Mexico, places with lower labor costs and attractive incentives. At this point, India, with its population of over 1.4 billion, is not only competing with China in terms of workforce, but is also actively improving its business environment. Initiatives like Make in India have turned India into an appealing destination for foreign investors. Additionally, India has an undeniable advantage: English. With an education system focused on the language, India's workforce can easily collaborate with multinational corporations, especially in high-tech sectors. Meanwhile, Vietnam is also rising as a top choice for the China Plus One strategy. With a young, low-cost labor force and political stability, the S-shaped country has attracted major corporations such as Samsung, Nike, and Intel. Industrial zones have sprung up rapidly, accompanied by tax incentives that have turned Vietnam into a magnet for investment. Returning to China, should the country be worried? Whether it is or not, I can't say for sure, but despite businesses gradually leaving, China still holds significant advantages that are not easily replaced. One of the factors that makes China stand out is its transportation and industrial infrastructure. From highways, port systems, to industrial zones, all of these have been built on an impressive scale and at an astonishing speed. In addition to being the world's factory, China is also the second largest consumer market globally. International businesses come not only to manufacture here, but also to serve hundreds of millions of Chinese consumers who are increasingly interested in premium products. For a long time, China has also been implementing its own strategies to cope with businesses choosing alternative destinations. One of its grand strategies is Made in China 2025, a blueprint for achieving its ambition of becoming a manufacturing superpower by 2049. With this strategy, the role of the world's factory becomes less critical. Instead, China aims to develop higher tech and larger scale industries. The larger goal is to escape the middle income trap, eliminate dependence on high-tech products from Western companies, and gradually establish itself as the global hub for high-tech manufacturing. Initially, while facing significant pushback from the West, China's economy has made some progress under this new strategy. The most evident achievements can be seen in the development of electric vehicles and semiconductor chips. However, mastering core technologies remains a significant challenge for China, particularly in the semiconductor sector. Despite numerous efforts by the government, China's semiconductor industry has made remarkable strides. Yet U.S. restrictions have undeniably disrupted the progress of China's chip sector. After enduring sanctions from the U.S. and the West for some time, Chinese chip manufacturers are striving to overcome these challenges, but not all of them have the capacity to survive in such difficult circumstances. One thing we can observe is that while the West is striving to reduce its reliance on China's supply chains, and China itself is making efforts to achieve self-reliance, breaking the economic ties between China and the West is no easy task. However, it is still extremely difficult for any country to replace China's leading position. In fact, many companies are beginning to return their production lines to China, realizing that this country remains the most suitable choice for them. In conclusion, despite facing numerous challenges, China remains an indispensable part of the global supply chain. At present, China is not only the factory, but also becoming the brain of the global economy. So what do you think about China's future? Will this giant continue to surge ahead or be held back by the challenges it faces? Let's wait and see. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support Mason. See you in the next videos.